Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to episode 2 of my brand new series where I talk to you guys about whether going to med school is the right choice for you. So for those of you who are new to this channel and to these videos, welcome. And for those of you who saw the last video, you know what this is going to be about, and that's just giving you my 2 cents and my experience on what it's been like for me to have gone through my journey to become a doctor here in Sydney, Australia. In this particular video, I'm going to cover the very beginning. So many years ago in a galaxy far away, I'm going to talk to you about what it's like as a teenager when you're 14, 15 and 16, having to make such a big decision about what you want to do for the rest of your life. Now, if you're in high school and you're currently sitting the HSC or about to sit the HSC in the next year or two, this video is for you. The HSC is the New South Wales High School Certificate, which is the final examination that you do in high school, and coupled with the work you do during the Year 11 and Year 12 academic years, it gives, I guess, the whole state a benchmark of where you rank compared to other students. And this score, which initially when I did it was out of 500, but it's now out of 100, it determines your ability to make choices as to which courses you want to apply for university the following year. Now, the reality is, to get into medical school, and I'm talking about getting in as an undergraduate, so that means going straight from year 12 to med school. I'm not talking about going to another degree and then either finishing that and moving on, or transitioning by sitting a GAMSAT or a UMAT exam. I'm talking about finishing year 12, having your summer holidays, going to doing schoolies, and then going to med school that following January. And yes, the reality is that you have to be academically excellent to be able to get into med school in this way. I don't know the exact scores that you require, but it's somewhere around you need to be in the mid to high 90s, which means you have to be one of the top students in the state to be able to even be accepted into med school. What this means is that you have to be academically excelling. And you just got to remember that even if you get a really good mark in the HSC, it doesn't make you smart. And if you don't do as well as you'd like, it doesn't make you dumb. Just like any other examination, it is a moment in time. It captures what you know at that particular day or series of days. You may just be having a bad day. You might not be feeling well. There could be something bad that's happened to your life recently and it's affected your ability to study. You may have just lucked out and studied the wrong things. There are a few things to think about before you just get too worked up and just get too anxious about the whole examination. It's people, like when you, even for me, when I was doing the HSC, it was really stressful and you think this is the be all end all of life, and if you fail it, if you don't get a good mark, then your life is over. And that's simply not true. There are other ways to get into medicine if that's what you want to do, if you are unable to get the appropriate marks. But for the rest of this video, I'm going to pretend that that is not an issue, and I'm just going to talk more about the actual decision of actually wanting to apply for medicine compared to any other course at university. So if you are watching this as a teenager trying to make a decision, my first question to you is, why do you want to become a doctor? Is it because you think it's a noble profession? Is it because you think you're going to earn heaps of money? Is it because you've always wanted to be a doctor ever since you were a little baby? Or perhaps for some of you, it's because you've seen a family member, a loved one, friend, whatever, have to go through a potentially life-threatening or actually life-threatening experience, and you think maybe that's what you want to do to be able to save lives, to be able to help others. Now, these are all very valid reasons, and it's a personal decision. No one's going to judge you on making any decisions based on any of these factors. The fact that you want to help people because you want to be a positive force in the world is great. The fact that you want to create a stable income and a good living for your family is admirable. And the fact that you just want to earn heaps of money and be able to afford a Lamborghini, which is also okay. But the one decision which I think is not okay is to be going into anything, especially something like being a doctor, based on a desire or wish or an instruction from somebody else that is not yourself. Now, when I went through high school, at the age that I'm describing, 14, 15 and 16 and 17, all I really wanted to do was play cricket, baseball, touch football, hang out with friends. I had no idea what I wanted to do for the next 50 years. I didn't even know what I wanted to have for dinner that night. So how do you expect a kid, and basically you're a kid, to make a decision which could influence the rest of your career and could have such a big influence on the lives of others? The answer actually is you have no way of knowing. It's just something that you've got to do based on your gut. And I will keep harping about this throughout this video and further videos, is that at least if you're making your own decision, if you've made a considered decision based on the facts that you've gathered, at least you can look back and say, look, this is the best I could have done with the facts I was given. This is a choice that I make and I'm okay with it. I've made the bed and I'm going to lie in it. The biggest issue is making a decision based on somebody else's opinion. Now, I kind of feel like in a lot of ways that I fall in the category of the second one, because whilst I wasn't exactly forced to go into med school, I really didn't have much of an idea, I guess, of what I wanted to do in the first place. I figured it would be something to do with computers. So whether it was some sort of computer science, engineering type thing, medicine wasn't actually in my mind at all. I used to come up with some wildly delusional careers like professional baseball player, driving a double-decker bus in Hong Kong, and whilst there's nothing wrong with that, it wasn't really, I guess, in my cards for that to happen. I actually had no idea. And when it came time, I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was sometime during year 12, you get this piece of paper, you have to write 6 choices down as to which courses you want to apply for at university. That was back then. I don't know if it's different now, but I think that the thinking is still the same. So having no idea what I wanted to do, it becomes very easy to be influenced by the opinions of others. What was I going to write? I was going to write computer something, wasn't really sure. You go through all those books about all these uni courses, you read through them, and still nothing's any more clear than it was before you started. In fact, it might be even a little bit more confusing once you've read through all those books. And it just became one of those situations where my parents basically said, if you don't want to do anything, why don't you pick something that's really good? So why don't you pick medicine? And not knowing any better, I guess, that's what I did. Coming from my background, which is an immigrant when we came over from Hong Kong at the age of 8 with my parents, career and I guess status was very important back then in the 80s. It was like one of those things which has to do with family name, nobility and all that kind of stuff. And my parents said, why not apply for medicine? So I did. I had no other things that I really wanted to do. I couldn't provide an argument as to why I shouldn't put medicine down, so I proceeded and I wrote Uni New South Wales, medicine. University of Sydney, medicine. Newcastle University, medicine. And I think the last 3, because there were no other medical schools at the time, I think I put down like economics, law and architecture or something, I can't remember, but none of those was really anything that I had any particular passion about. And more importantly, and more, I guess if you look back, it was a bit of dumb luck, is that almost all of those courses required approximately the same mark in the HSC to get in. So basically what this means is if I stuffed it and got like 300 out of 500, which ironically is still a pass mark, but it's certainly not enough to get into any of those courses, I would have had no offerings from any of the universities because all my 6 choices was based on something in the highest tier. You never know, I guess, what that would have brought. If I had failed the HSC, didn't get into med school or any of the other choices I make, perhaps my life would have been a lot different. But you don't know, so regretting that is pointless. But the fact is that I put down those 6 choices and studied my butt off and waited. I still remember that day when the HSC results came out. Back in 1988, we didn't really have much in the way of internet. And it wasn't like you could just keep refreshing the browser button to log into your HSC account. Basically, we had to stand there and wait for the mailman. And I can remember that day pretty vividly. I wasn't excited, I wasn't stressed, I was doing other stuff, but my mum was actually pacing up and down the house waiting for the mailman to come. And finally, when the mailman cometh, the envelope was in our hand. It was almost like an Oscar. We'd sit there, we'd silent, we get the drum roll, and the winner goes to. Well, when the envelope was opened, I didn't actually remember opening the envelope. I think my mum actually opened it. Tremendous news. I got into medicine. I got into the University of New South Wales Medical School. Congratulations. You can start in January. Awesome. That was pretty much my reaction. I wasn't particularly excited either way. My mum was. And I guess everyone else I knew was, because it's so cool. Derek gets to go into medical school. His cousin went to medical school, so he'd be on his level. And eventually his other cousin, whose husband also went to med school, who no longer practices medicine because he's found an alternative calling. It all just seemed like life was fitting in, life was working out perfectly, and everything was the way it should be, and the stars were aligning. So this kind of ends the tale at this point of going through high school. As a student, I really honestly, truly had no idea what I wanted to do. And in that way, I kind of just fell into medical school based on a suggestion of my parents. And this is what I wanted to talk to you about in the remainder of this video. Making a mistake in your life is okay, as long as you're the one who made the mistake. When you regret your life based on the decision that was made for you, on behalf of you, suggested to you because you were either not caring enough, not strong enough, or just not aware enough to make that decision for yourself, is the problem that I'm talking about. If any of you guys are watching this video and are in the position where you don't know what to do, and you're having people, specifically your parents, usually your mom, tell you that you should go to medical school, and you can't think of anything worse than going into medicine, my advice to you is don't do it. Now, I'm not saying that I regret everything that I've done. I'm not saying that I hate being a doctor, but I'm just saying to you is that it's really important that you choose something that may at least potentially make you happy. Now, as a 16 or a 17 or an 18-year-old kid, you're never going to know. You're not going to know that picking medicine is going to suck. You're not going to know that you're going to become a Nobel Prize winner and invent the cure for the latest cancer. But you're also not going to know what would have happened if you went and bought a time zone franchise and became a professional esports person. All there is, at the end of the day, when the scores are tallied up at the end of your life, is how happy you've been and how fulfilled you feel. By that time, it's likely that your parents will be long gone, and it's you who's had to deal with the last 20, 30, 40 years of your life, where you can either have gone to work every day, loved the hell out of what you do, or gone to work every day and being completely miserable and resenting your parents or whoever gave you the advice to go to medical school in the first place. Now, it's definitely true that no matter what you do, you're going to have good days and bad days. Even your dream job is going to be really sucky at certain times. But you've just got to be aware that you don't want your life to be sucky all of the time. If you're not the type of person who can even stand the thought of having to work really hard, miss a lot of other people's lives, miss a lot of your life, do a lot of overtime, sometimes not be particularly rewarded, be extremely fatigued and exhausted for a lot of your life, then perhaps medicine is not the right thing for you. It's not true that you get to go to work every day and save lives. It's not true that people are always going to thank you for being their doctor. You're not necessarily going to be able to afford that big house with a swimming pool, that $300,000 sports car, and be able to fly first class everywhere around the world going on these exotic holidays with your salary. What is definitely going to happen is that you're going to have a lot of sleepless nights. You're going to have to put in a lot of hard work. You're going to be doing a lot of on-call. A lot of times it can be very stressful, lonely, you'll be sad, you'll be angry, you'll be frustrated. Just imagine for a second before you make this choice is, how are you going to feel when you've missed the last 3 wedding anniversary dinners with your wife and you've left her there, sitting at the restaurant because you're still scrubbed in theatre? Or how are you going to feel when you've missed your daughter's first ballet recital because you're late home from work? Just remember, this is just one dude's viewpoint. I'm just throwing some suggestions up there. I'm just giving you some advice of what I've experienced and what I've gone through. And I just wanted you to just have a good think about it to make sure whether you're prepared to do the work, make the sacrifices, and actually want to become a doctor. If you actually, after this video, still want to become a doctor, I congratulate you, I wish you the best, and I hope you have a very rewarding and happy career. But if you don't, this is a time to stop. This is a time to tell your parents that you don't want to do this, you don't want to become a doctor, you don't want to waste the next 6 or 7 years of your life doing a course where you're not going to enjoy it and you're likely to pull out anyhow. This is the time to be brave and tell your parents that you don't want to do this, at the risk of them rejecting you now, at the risk of them feeling disappointed in you now, but with the knowledge that 20 years from now, when the dust is settled and you're happy, they're going to be happy for you whether you're a doctor, a pilot, a cricketer, or just anyone else, any career you choose. If you're working at Starbucks serving coffee and you're loving it, they're going to love the fact that you're happy. They're going to tell all their friends at that point that I have a really happy kid and he or she is doing exactly what he wants to be doing. Right now they'll be saying, my kid's not listening to me. I've told my kid to go into medicine and he or she is refusing. He just wants to waste his life doing something that's ridiculous. It's not going to earn him any money. But ultimately, it's your life. Do not fear other people's judgment. Do not overly become obsessed with other people's opinions. Just make your mind up for yourself based on what you know is in here. You know in your heart whether you want to do medicine or not, just like any other career. A little bit of short-term discomfort now, having to figure out what your career path is going to take, and just remember, you can always change. If you decide 5 years from now, it is still possible to get into medicine. On the flip side, don't dread this decision so much, because even once you become a doctor, if you no longer want to become a doctor, you can also change. So having now told you to tell your parents to leave you alone and make your own decision, because it's your life and not theirs, I want to end this video on something that's really positive. If you want to become a doctor, it is a great profession. It does afford you some of the luxuries that you would not normally have if you worked other jobs. Just be mindful that there's a lot of sacrifices that go into it. Doctors do not get paid disproportionate to the amount of work that they do. Yes, we do get paid more than a lot of other professions, but that's because we work really hard. There's not many occupations where you go to work every day and if you screw up, somebody dies. And if you're okay with that, then being a great doctor may just be the thing for you. So that's the end of my video. This is the end of episode 2. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Hope you guys have found some value. And as I said, my aim is just to give you my experience and hopefully it'll help you make the right decision for you. I look forward to seeing you for episode number 3. And in the meantime, if you haven't, please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications so you know exactly the moment that I release my next video. Until then, have a great weekend and I'll catch you soon. See ya.